Where are you at the moment, Darinka? It looks quite dark.
Yeah, I'm in Bali. There are actually, as you said, that there was a bat just flying by.
Is Bali a regular thing?
Yes, for me, it's quite regular. My aunt has been living here for about 20 years and she makes pretty much all the clothes I wear all the time. And I come here to take pictures of her brand every year. And I used to be here for like a couple of weeks, then 3 weeks, then a month. And every time I left, I was like, why am I leaving? And now I've been here since October.
And you're kind of isolating out there as well, aren't you?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's very unclear what's going on here with the virus situation, like very, very unclear. There are some restrictions, like you are obliged to wear masks. There has been some roadblocks between different areas of the islands. But that said, like most restaurants are open, most shops are closed, most tourists are gone. So it's really quiet. It's actually pretty lovely.
It does kind of sound that. That's true.
Yeah.
Really good. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about you, about sort of where you grew up and about some of the influences in your life. And then we're going to talk about some of your trips. I have a small confession to make to everybody watching that so Darinka has published 2 novels, and we're going to talk a little bit, 2 books, sorry, 2 travel books, and we're going to talk a little bit about them. She has just about finished writing the version in English, and I've been helping her to do some editing with that, so I have a little bit of an interest in this too. But the book is excellent. Anybody watching Italian or when it comes out in English, Darinka is the person to read. Okay, excellent. Darinka, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? You're Italian, aren't you?
Yes, I am Italian indeed. And I guess I should say also how I met you at that stage. Me and Adam met in Laos in maybe 2006 it was. And on a slow boat from Waikisai, the Thai-Lao border. We spent 2 days on this slow boat to Luang Prabang, and we arrived there, and I didn't really know it was the Buddhist New Year, so there was a huge party that lasted like a week or something crazy like that, where everybody just throw water at each other. So we had this really amazing experience together, and we've been really good friends since. So yay.
Yeah, we got stuck in Luang Prabang. It was there are worse places to be stuck in the world, aren't there, than Luang Prabang?
No, it's absolutely lovely. Yeah.
But Laos has been something that has come into your life quite a lot.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, like when I met you there, it was my very first time, and I decided that, after the 3rd beer Lao, I think I decided I'm gonna live here at some stage of my life. and I did. I came back a few years later, and I spent 4 years living there. At first, I was an English teacher with Italian accent, and and then I was a tour guide, and then I ended up opening a restaurant in Vientiane, the capital city. Yeah, absolutely, really, really love Laos. I keep going back, actually. I spent Christmas over there. I still have really good friends over there, a lot of good memories. And so, yeah, it's absolutely an important part of my life that I love to go back to.
Is it Laos in particular, or is it all of Southeast Asia?
Well, definitely Laos and Bali. I think these are the 2 places that kind of stuck with me in the long term. I do talk about Laos quite a bit in Mondonauta as well, because it's kind of the beginning of the trip. Like Mondonauta is a book that talks about 2 stories that run on parallel tracks. By the way, if anyone has a suggestion for the title, because we translated the book, we were still very unsure about the title. So Mondo means world, And nauta means note, like a sailor, like astronaut will be a sailor of the stars. So to me, the concept of mondo nauta is a sailor on Earth, uh, like as if you're traveling on Earth, as if you were traveling on water, like where there are no borders of races and sex and religion. So like a very open-minded way of traveling. So yeah, if anyone has a suggestion on the title, that would be great. Yeah, so the book starts from Laos, like the two stories kind of start from there. One part of the story is the end of a relationship I was in, and a very long kind of trip to get over it, because I booked a flight from Bangkok to Milan to come back home, spend some time with my parents, sort of like clear my mind and decide what to do with my life. And they canceled that flight, so I decided to just like, okay, I'm gonna go overland. So I went through China, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Russia. I ended up in Finland to visit a friend of mine. So that's one part of the story. And then the second part of the story is, after writing my first book, they told me as a female author that probably I will not really sell that many copies in Italy, especially. And I said, you know what? I think I'm gonna try my best to sell as many copies as possible. So I got a bamboo bicycle built, and I cycled about 6,000 kilometers, organized more than 80 presentations all around the country, and I did sell many copies. So it is possible for a woman to sell many copies. It's just a little bit harder. And yeah.
This was it was a bamboo bike, no, with a
Yes.
it had a motor as well. And so,
Yes, it was an electric bamboo bike with a trailer at the back, in which I could fit about 60 books. So when I run out of them, then I can get them. I used to get them sent to the next location and refill my bike and keep going.
did you always enjoy your cycling?
No. At the beginning, it was horrible because my previous experience of traveling in Italy, just what the first book was about, basically, it was just walking about 3,000 kilometers. And as soon as I got on the bicycle, I was like, oh my God, this is like way too fast. Plus, I had this massive trailer at the back. And I remember the first time I went downhill, it was probably the first day I got the bike. I had to cross some mountains. And then going downhill, like I kind of really enjoying going a little bit fast downhill because, you know, after you suffered so hard going uphill, then you really enjoy the speed going down. And I didn't know that I could only go like, I think 30k per hour maximum, because otherwise with the trailer, then it will make you kind of wobble. I was going down like crazy, and then suddenly it's like, whoa, what's going on? But yeah, I survived. And yeah, I learned sort of like just by doing it. And at the end of it, I was completely in love with bicycle, but it took me a long time because yeah, it was too fast. I'm a photographer as well, so I'd like to, while you walk, you can stop, take pictures. I could record what my thoughts just in writing as I walked. And on cycling, you can't do any of that, and you have to pay so much attention to the surroundings, the cars, and everything that's going on around you. So yeah, completely different experience, but I did get to enjoy it towards the end.
Why don't you tell us about Walkabout Italia then? So what was this walking through Italy?
Yeah. So that happened again, like I guess like all my stories starts with the heartbreak. So I was living in London back then, and I was a masseuse of poker players' heads in casinos. And what happened, it was that my ex proposed. He asked me to marry him. I was very much in love, and I said yes. And then he broke up with me after 1 month after he proposed. So I was completely heartbroken for a while, for a couple of months, and I kind of entered this downward spiral of drugs and drinks and a bit of a self-destructive mode. and I ended up getting absolutely wasted, fell off my bicycle, broke my chin, woke up at the hospital, got stitches, and then I kind of continued working for a couple of more days after that. And then one day I was working, and it just, you know, when you massage poker players, like they kind of pass you their energy. So I was massaging this very nervous player, and yeah, very, very nervous, and it kind of made me feel a little bit physically sick. And I started to look around, and I realized that there are no watches in the casinos, just, you know, so that poker players or gamblers will lose the track of time. And that was a really good metaphor of what was going on in my life, you know, like you were just sort of passing in front of me. I didn't feel like I was the protagonist of my own story anymore. Time was going by, and I was very apathic over the whole situation. And I sort of just looked down at my shoes, and there was the brand said "Go Walk." So I said, you know what, that sounds like a very good advice right now. And so I just kind of quit the job right there and there, and I started walking. So I walked from the casino back home, and in this very long nocturnal walk, I sort of thought, okay. So, oh, there was a sentence from a movie, the first thing I thought about. The Great Beauty, a really good movie. If you guys haven't watched it, you should definitely watch it. And the protagonist says that at 65 years old, it doesn't have any more time to spend things it doesn't love doing. And I was like, okay, why do I have to wait another 30 years to come to the same conclusion? I don't want to do things I don't love to do anymore. What do I love to do? So I sort of like put together my passions, which obviously is writing, traveling, photography. And because I found my own dreams, so I decided to put them together in a way that I could inspire others to follow their own dreams as well. And then, of course, I'm very slow. So by putting all these 5 things together, I came up with the idea of walking, so travel in the slowest possible way. I decided to discover my own country, which I didn't know. So walked around Italy with a little magic box in which I collected people's dreams. So I asked everybody to write on a piece of paper, just sort of like to make them think about what they want to do in their own life with their time on earth. And yeah, so then I wrote a blog like about my experience of the long walk. The walk lasted 7 months. I walked about 3,000 kilometers. And I did everything with zero money in my pockets, because by then I didn't save any money. I sort of like drank it all. So when I came back to Italy, I had absolutely nothing saved. But I thought if I wasn't going to do it in that moment, I probably will never do it. And I just thought I should definitely just go for it. And then conceptually, I also really like the idea of showing that it's possible to travel without money and exchange other things rather than cash. So maybe, you know, a smile for a peach, a story for a roof, you know, just possibility to listen to what the stories of the people were. Because I think when you meet strangers, they're even more encouraged to speak to you and to share their personal lives, because they're really less scared of judgment. They don't care so much. So every time you enter one of those houses of the people who hosted me along the way, was, you know, really getting into their life and get them to know quite deeply, even though in a short amount of time. So yeah, that was a really amazing experience.
And it helped you to see Italy in a different way, I believe, didn't it?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I didn't know Italy. I didn't know my country at all. I'm from the north, and I left Italy when I was 19, and I never really lived there since. So, well, to see it from outside, you don't really get such a positive picture of Italy. To see it from the media, if you spend just time home without being in touch with reality, again, the picture you get of the country is really quite horrible, I'm afraid. And it's partly true, of course. Like, unfortunately, we're a quite ignorant nation and very racist. You know, we are certainly not very advanced in gender equality and many other things. But However, like as I start walking, especially starting from Sicily, I couldn't have picked a better place to start. Sicily was absolutely eye-opening. Like coming from the north, where reality is sort of very sterile, like everything comes in plastic boxes. People don't really talk to each other, and you land in Palermo, and it's like total open air theater. People just shouting to each other in the street, beautiful markets full of like life, really a lot of life. Like so that and Sicilians are amazing, super welcoming. They made me feel like I was very, very welcome, and the whole project, they made it so easy for me as well. So it was really easy to find people who hosted me along the way, that gave me food, that really helped me along the way. So yeah, so I saw the Italy that doesn't really come across from the media, the Italy that is okay to open their door to a stranger and give her a roof for the night and share their lives and their stories. And some of them were extremely powerful. I have collected a few of really powerful stories from the people who hosted me. So yeah, it's really eye-opening.
And then those stories, did they go into the book?
Yes, of course. Like in the book it's sort of like, again, sort of like separated in two parts. Like there is the full-on immersion into the country from Sicily to Rome, where I was just writing about the stories of the people who hosted me along the way and all that. When I arrived in Rome, I think I was starting to get a little bit exhausted, because it takes a lot, it's like you're like a sponge every day. You absorb the emotions of the people who host you, and you give back so much in listening, smiling. You can't be hosted and go there and be moody. You gotta be smiley, you gotta be attentive, you gotta be caring. So it was really taking its toll. By the time I got to Rome, to every night also repeat the same story. Hey, I'm Darinka, I'm walking around Italy, I'm collecting people's dreams, blah, 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 blah. So it was really getting a little bit heavy. So the second part of the trip, it was more sort of like introspection. I got to do from there to Liguria, I got to do the Via Francigena, which is sort of like the Italian version of the Camino de Santiago, but is way less popular. So I only met like maybe 4 people doing it in like hundreds of kilometers. And the good thing about that is that I was hosted in sort of like religious institution. So I didn't have to speak much. I didn't have to share much. And that's where the trip became really a therapy for me, because the reasons why I left, it was desperation, self-destruction, and all that. And then when I got to the point, I really realized I didn't really know why I was doing what I was doing, and by then I sort of started to understand that I was doing it for redemption, like I was trying to forgive myself. And that started to be really, really healthy as well, to just see understand exactly what I was doing. So yeah, I talked about their stories for half of the book, and then the sort of second half, it's more introspective, and it's more about me and using the walk as a therapy.
There's no better therapy, I think, than traveling, especially that kind of intense traveling like that. But you've made other trips by bicycle, though, haven't you, Darinka?
Yes, I have. So after I finished promoting, am I right in keeping the phone this way now? Sorry,
This is fine for me.
This is fine. Should I keep it this way?
That way is even better, actually.
Okay. So what I was saying, yes. So when I finished then the promotion of Walkabout Italia by bicycle, I arrived back to my parents' house, and I thought, kind of like this bicycle business now. So first I went back to Sicily for 3 months. I rented a little house in Ustica, this little island off the coast of Sicily, and I spent the winter there writing Mondonauta, writing my second book. And as soon as I was finished with the second book, I knew that I wanted to cycle again. So I got a real bike, not a bamboo bike without electric motor this time, just leg powered. and I start cycling. The idea was to cycle and sail all around the world. I didn't want to do it in one go. I just kind of wanted to do it in bits and pieces, so that I can stop and write after maybe a continent was over. And so far, I have cycled from Italy to Ireland, then to the south of England. From there, I found my first ride on a sailing boat, on a tall ship actually, and I sailed with a crew of 8. Wonderful experience, first time sailing ever. We left, I think it was Gosport at Force 9. Everybody called me Baby Rhino on the boat because I couldn't stand up and I was crawling on my knees everywhere. Very graceful. And we arrived in Portimao in the south of Portugal. From there, cycled to Spain, got a ferry to Canary Island. And from there, I hitchhiked a second ride on another tall ship, actually. That was really lucky because nobody really wants to take crew with a bicycle, because on small ship there is no space to have a bicycle, but on tall ships, yeah, that's possible. And it was a great concept as well. So if you guys want to look for it, I think the website is called Timber Coast, and the boat it's called Avontur. And basically the concept it was to start doing commerce trading, zero emission again. So basically the boat goes to Honduras to pick up coffee, to Barbados to pick up rum, and sells it back to Germany, to Europe. And yeah, it's all carbon-free products. So yeah, it was a wonderful project because it sort of like really matched my idea. My idea of cycle and sailing around the world was to show that it's possible to travel zero emission as well. So that was absolutely wonderful. The trip wasn't that wonderful. We went completely the wrong way. Like the trade winds sort of go this way, and they say you go south until the butter melts. But maybe with the global warming, it melts a bit earlier or something. So we start going west a little bit too soon. So we got stuck with no wind. Normally, a transatlantic crossing takes about 3 to 4 weeks max. For us, it took us 5 weeks. So for like 2 weeks, we wake up and there is the big sails just banging, no wind at all, and yeah, like you need to have a lot of patience and meditate a lot. But it was also very beautiful because I never could expect that in the middle of the ocean on some days it was quiet, the water completely flat, and sometimes at night you get those fluorescent plankton. So we used to take buckets of water out of the sea and throw them back into the sea, so you see this explosion of plankton, and then with the stars reflecting on the calm water, it was like being in Avatar. It was really quite amazing some nights. Yeah, so I got to French Guiana with the boat, and from there I cycled to Patagonia. I stopped in Bolivia for about 3 months. My best friend is from over there, and I volunteer for his organization for 3 months. They help shoe shiners. The shoe shiners in La Paz are considered sort of like at the bottom of society. So they wear a balaclava to work. Well, they're like kind of coronavirus mode 24/7 forever, and because they don't want to be recognized, because people have stigma against them if they know how they look. So yeah, I worked with them for about 3 months. They print, the association, it's called Hormigón Armado, and they print a newspaper that they give to the shoe shiners for free. And it's written by the shoe shiners as well. They do some workshop to write and make movies and take pictures and so on. And it's kind of like the big issue, and then they take 100% of the profit. Plus, they made a little oven for their wives to cook cookies and sell cookies. And so I was taking care of their kids as they were working and baking cookies. So it was really lovely smell of baked fresh cookies every morning. And I lived in the cookie factory for 3 months. And then I kept sailing on, cycling on down to Patagonia. And last winter, I cycled from Louisiana to California and down into Mexico.
So you got to the Pacific Ocean in the end, no?
Eventually, yes, I did get to the Pacific Ocean. Then I wasn't planning to sail it just yet. I think probably my next step will be, well, from here, I'm writing a third book, which is about cycling the Americas. And as soon as I'm finished, most likely I will go back to Europe, pick up my bicycle and cycle the bicycle from Europe to here, to Bali, and maybe find a ride from here and cross the Pacific so I can close the circle.
So you go like that way.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Which would you go back through the stands? Because obviously, so the one of the books that you've written talks about you going through some of the which stands?
Stands. Yes.
Oh,
I don't know which way I'm gonna go yet. You know, I think my battery is gonna die, so I'm just gonna put the phone to charge while we do this. But so I don't know exactly which way I'm gonna go. I haven't really looked at the map much. I know that I definitely want to cycle through Iran because I heard amazing things from other cyclers. Maybe more male cyclers than women cyclers, but I still want to try. And situation for which country? Can you still hear me?
Oh, yeah, you've gone a bit quiet.
I think you're coming out of my speaker.
There you go. Laughing was all right. Oh, we lost your picture.
Okay.
Right, there we are.
I
Hello
got you
again.
now. Cool. Oh no, I didn't got you. Why? Sorry, guys. If we don't do technical problems every now and then.
We're running online lessons every day at the moment, so we have at least 5 classes every day. So there are technical problems. I think everybody here is used to them.
Right. Okay, I can hear you now. You can hear me?
Good. Yes, loud and clear.
Oh. Wonderful.
So, talking a little bit about the cycling community. So, you've actually kind of started a festival, haven't you?
Yes, that's happening too. So basically, last year, I came after seeing you because I saw you in Dublin, and so I came back to Italy, and I was there, and just about like a month before I went back to Italy, or maybe like a month and a half or something like that, I realized I was gonna be in Italy at the same time that a lot of my cycling friends were, you know, like other crazy people, like a guy that cycled in Siberia in the winter, this girl that cycled from Vietnam back to Italy, so like really big cyclers. And we were all gonna be in Italy at the same time, which is quite rare. So I thought, let's, you know, meet up, let's have a party. And I have a little place with a garden in this little town by the lake. So I thought I was going to invite everybody over and have a little party. And then we sort of thought, like, I think a lot of people will be interested to be here and, you know, listen to our travel stories. So why don't we open the doors to other people as well? Obviously, it was a small garden, so I couldn't have like hundreds of people, but we just kind of limited to 70 people. And we decided to ticket it and to raise money. So my best friend, the guy in Bolivia, his sister was sick. She has cancer, like not really an easy one to deal with, unfortunately. So we raised like over $1,000 for her with the ticket of the event. And then we had music, we had artisanal beer, like it was like 3 days of madness. We had the Italian TV that showed up at the door, and they did a little, you know, documentary for the news. And it was really quite amazing. Like my floor at night looked like Tetris with people sleeping everywhere in every position you can imagine. But it was really funny. It was really great. So we're gonna do it again. It was meant to be in June. Unfortunately, we had to postpone it. So now we moved it to the 6th of September. 5 and 6 of September, but it's going to be a much bigger location, so we'll be maybe between 200 and 300 people this time.
200 or 300 people all socially distancing. No?
Yeah, we will see,
well
and hopefully you'll be there as well.
Yes, yeah, no, I very much hope so. We talking about live music. Something you were doing in Dublin was the canoes. Can you tell us about the kayaks?
Yes. So the last 4 years I've been going out with a guy that owns kayaking company on the Liffey, on the main river in Dublin, and I sort of went kayaking at first, and I noticed that, well, that was some strange noise in the forest. Anyway, sorry. I just live in front of the jungle. I have no walls. It's wonderful, but sometimes something crazy happens. Anyway, so yeah, he owned this kayak company, and when I went out kayaking the first time, I realized that the sound under the bridges was really quite special, quite unique. And I thought, like, wow, what a venue, to bring musicians and maybe play some music for the people on the kayak and do a kayaking concert. And I sort of like threw out the idea at him, and he's like, well, if you want to try, why not? So he gave me complete freedom to start organizing this madness. And yes, I did. Like, the first one we did was actually for charity. So we donated everything again to my Bolivian Friends Association. And then we saw it was very successful, and we just did it every Saturday for the last 3 years in the summer in Dublin. I think they're gonna continue doing it as well, even if I'm not gonna be here anymore. But yeah, you've been there, it was really pretty special. I became good friends with a lot of amazing Dublin musicians, and the quality of music in Dublin is absolutely spectacular. It's really off the roof. And yeah, so it was wonderful to bring them down there, and for them it was quite unique. It was a really pleasant experience for them too, as they normally don't really get to play much of their original music. They are stuck with the covers most of the time, but there they could play their own music. So it was a really good way to, get tourists to listen to original Dublin music and get them to play for people from all over the world in these amazing settings. So yeah, it was quite a successful series of events.
It's a fantastic thing. If anybody ever goes to Dublin in the summertime, this is one of the best things you can do, I think. And there were musicians and poets.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. We called a couple of poets over as well. Yeah, that was quite something as well.
Yeah. So anybody that ever goes to Dublin, do that for sure. What I'm going to do is, in a few minutes, I'm going to ask people that are here. So if you have any questions for Darinka, you can use the Q&A button, and you can write us something, and absolutely go ahead and ask us something. I'm sure that one of the questions, Darinka, and one of the questions you must get asked a lot, is about danger.
Danger.
Yes, the danger of a young woman traveling on her own through all of these crazy places. What do you say about it?
Well, I will buy you a pint just because you said young. But first, it's not easy at first, like, especially what it was maybe the hardest to do at first, it was camping by myself. So of course you get used to it, but at first, like, every noise you're like, oh, what's going on? You got a little bit freaked out. Then you get used to it, and you're so tired after cycling all day that you just kind of forget about it and get on with it. But that was certainly maybe the hardest to get through. Then before I start walking, like, of course I always traveled, but I didn't really know how to walk. So before I start walking, especially without money, I was totally paranoid I was so scared that I was scared of fear itself. I didn't even know of what I was scared. And as I start walking, it was like this fear was like a big glass wall that when I start walking, I sort of broke it and went through it, and it dismantled in like a million little pieces. And now I can pick them up one by one, and I can look at them, and I can recognize my fears. Uh, I know exactly what I'm scared of. So I know that I'm scared of like walking in tunnels. I'm scared of some wild dogs. I'm scared of altitude. So like I suffer from vertigo a little bit. And of course, I'm scared sometimes of people asking me, like, I'll give you a good example. Like the first day, like this guy sort of truck driver took like opened the window and is like speaking in Sicilian accent. He's like, let's go have sex. And I was like, no, thanks for the offer though. You know, I didn't really know what to say or even how to react. And after many months being on the road, I started using fantasy as my best weapon. So I started to say to people like that, like, look, I'm doing a documentary and my film crew is just behind. So whatever question you have, you can ask them. They're just like 200 meters behind. And people just left me alone, you know. Plus, I do use my phone. I think that's also a really good self-defense weapon. Like I had this guy, for example, in Mexico that stopped on the side of the road and he was calling me over in his pickup truck. And I was like, I always give the benefit of doubt because most of the time they're just really genuinely want to help you. You know, a lot of people gave me water, Gatorade, apples, whatever. But you never know. And I thought it was a bit dodgy that didn't stop right next to me, but stopped a little bit further down the road. So I was like, oh, ¿qué pasa? Like, what's happening? Like, what do you need? And then I noticed that the guy was masturbating, you know. So what I did, I just immediately, like with the phone, like show him that I was filming him. I was taking pictures. And you do act like animals as well. Like you try to make yourself bigger than you are. So even though I was really scared and all that, you sort of just start showing that you're not. You start shouting like, you know, I'm gonna call the police, blah, 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 blah. And then of course the guy left and he left me alone. But the idea that maybe his plate number was already photographed, that maybe was already on social media, or could have been anywhere. I think that's kind of what put a lot of people off even trying, doing, you know, scary stuff.
Good. I'll just explain a little bit, Darinka. We have in this webinar people watching from quite a few different continents. Okay, so we have a couple of people from Angola. And Anna has asked us why you wouldn't travel to Africa.
Oh, I would love to travel to Africa. I will definitely travel to Africa. I think probably I will leave Africa last. I think it probably needs a bit more experience traveling. And I know that I will need to be very prepared. Like I know that some countries wouldn't be very easy. It wouldn't be so easy to cycle through. Like I have a lot of male friends who've done it and they are absolutely in love with the continent. It was maybe one of their best traveling experiences ever. But as a woman alone, I think it's going to be probably a little bit more challenging. So that's why I think I'm going to leave it last and study a lot before I go. Also, especially study the road and the route I should be doing, because you know you don't want to enter countries where there is a war or any sort of problem. So but yes, I think she's writing that about going to Angola. If you have any suggestions to give me, please tell me, let me know, like which country I should maybe avoid, which countries I should definitely go to, what's safe. And yeah, I'm really open to listen to all suggestions.
There's no bad travel suggestions in a way, are there? All kind of interesting. How about, is there one place that is in your mind as being the most dangerous place that you've been? Mm. You were nearly in Mondo Nauta. You are almost involved in a revolution, aren't you?
Yes. I was very lucky. That was in Kyrgyzstan. Yes. I was very, very lucky there. I arrived in Osh, sort of like a southern big city at the border with Uzbekistan. And I was meant to be there for a couple of days, but I didn't really have a good feeling about the city. I went to a market. It was meant to be like the biggest market of Central Asia, but I was traveling with very little money, so it's not much point going to a market if you can't really go shopping. So I got a little bit around, but yeah, I decided to change last minute my travel plan. I had already booked the hostel for the night. I went to the hostel, say sorry, I'm gonna cancel. I'm just gonna leave. And I had this friend who would live there for a while, and he strongly suggested me to go to Aslanbab, I think it's called, which is this beautiful walnut forest where I could rent a donkey and go all around the walnut forest. That was meant to be planted by Alexander the Great when he went through Asia. So he had all this very romantic sort of feel to it. So I went to Aslanbab last minute, took the last minibus that was going. And when I arrived to Aslanbab, the atmosphere was quite intense. Like actually after I came back from my donkey ride, like I was hosted by a local family, and there was a really sort of intense atmosphere. And I asked like, what's up? What's going on? And they're like, oh, this morning in Osh, like literally 1 hour after I'd left the city, there was like a big revolution. 200 people died, like a civil war, more than a revolution, civil war. So 200 people got killed and all that. So yeah, the rest of the time in Kyrgyzstan was a little bit on edge, let's say, because I didn't really know how safe the rest of the country was going to be. I had to leave from the south, go to Bishkek and do the visa for Kazakhstan. So I still had to wait at least a week in the country until I could leave. My parents, they used to own a little coffee shop. And of course, I will not tell them there is a civil war in the country I'm in, because they would completely freak out. And I was like, who's gonna tell them that there is a civil war in Kyrgyzstan? Nobody even knows what Kyrgyzstan is. And of course, the only customers that reads international news went to my parents' bar the morning after and told my mom, isn't your daughter in Kyrgyzstan? There is a civil war over there. So then my mom, she called me like, come on, what are you doing? You're gonna fly back home right now. You're crazy. And of course, I didn't listen to her. I waited for my visa. I ended up staying with a family that live in Yurta by the Lake Isikul. It was maybe one of the most amazing experiences of my life. And I was quite safe over there. It was really remote zone. So that was
good timing, wasn't it?
Sorry?
Good timing.
Yeah, good timing. Good timing.
Sometimes I like. Say it.
I was saying, apart from that, like the places that I genuinely felt dangerous was the United States, surprisingly. Like Louisiana was definitely the most dangerous place, the place where I felt the most in danger. And you know what was funny, like paradoxical, I suppose, that when I was in the States and I was saying that I was going to go to Mexico, everybody was like, you crazy going to Mexico on your own. You're going to get killed. It's really dangerous. La, 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 la. And in Mexico, I had no fear whatsoever. The Mexicans were absolutely wonderful. Maybe it's been the highlight of my whole cycling trip. Like, I had the wind behind for 1 month. People were just being so giving, amazing, super friendly. And yeah, the least friendly people I found, and the more kind of ugly place and not nice atmosphere was definitely Louisiana. Like you enter in people's houses and maybe they have a wall full of AK-47 and then on the other side is full of crosses, and like, oh wow, you really kind of feel like you're walking on eggshells all the time. What am I allowed to say? Like, try not to piss people off, and try just to be friendly and listen. And yeah, so, and plus they're really not good driver. I don't think they like people cycling. So when they were driving, it kind of push you over the shoulder a little bit. A lot of wild dogs, not wild, people own them, but they have no gates in Louisiana, so they just kind of chase you for a long time, and then you end up like sweating, cycling super fast, trying to escape. So yeah, that was definitely the scariest place I ever cycled.
It's interesting that the cars always seem to be such a dangerous thing. We've noticed here in London now, actually, that in the last few weeks, a few weeks ago there were no cars, and then suddenly there's cars back on the streets, and suddenly cycling doesn't seem as nice anymore, which is a shame. We've got plenty of questions though. We have one from Zoe. So why did you decide to write a book about your experiences and not make a film or documentary? Because you mentioned you like photography, but not just like photography, is it?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So basically, my first book actually has pictures in it. The first version of it has pictures in it. I don't know, I'm not a video maker. Like now recently I've started to make a couple of videos, but it was not something I was able for at the time, and I probably wouldn't have had the resources as well to just carry like a good camera and a tripod and all that. Maybe even the technology wasn't there. Like probably now with just a gimbal and an iPhone I could do it, but yeah, I don't know. I think I would like it to become a movie at some stage, because I think the story is quite inspiring. So yeah, maybe one day, God knows.
But you get somebody else to play you.
Yes, absolutely. I will play myself. Yeah.
We have a really nice one from Darlo. Your hair looks amazing, Darinka. What kind of treatment do you use to make it look so good?
Well, I am going to do a little bit of advertising for my aunt's secret recipe. She makes a special shampoo with onion in it, actually. It kind of stinks of onion, so maybe it looks great, but it stinks a little bit.
Good for quarantine.
Yeah, perfect for quarantine. But it does make your hair super shiny and really strong. I think she puts onion in it for like 2 weeks. She has to leave it sort of like fermentate together with the shampoo and all that. I'm not so sure how the process works, but I'm sure if you Google like onion shampoo, you'll find.
There you go. Right, go ahead, Darlo. Go and use some onion shampoo. Good. We have Laura from Spain asks. She says, "Thank you for sharing with us. You have seen many places, cultures, and people. What surprised you, and especially what things did you find that were similar in every place and all the people?"
Okay, so, well, this might sound very, very banal, but actually I think it's not. But for this, I don't think I will use myself as an example. I'm gonna tell you a quick story. Like, I have a good friend. He had a parachuting accident when he was maybe 20 years old. Like, he was learning to be a professional in parachuting, and he had this bad accident, crashed, and he became blind from the accident, so he can't really see anything. One day, like, he had to go through a lot of rehabilitation because he also had some other physical damage as well. And one day his mom was late to pick him up from the rehabilitation center. So he came out anyway, and he's like, you know what, I'm going to try to make my own way home. And he started walking, and then people will see him that he's blind. They will help him. They will, walk with him for a little bit and all that. So he made it actually all the way home. And then there he was like, Eureka, or how you say, Eureka, like when you have an idea. So he was like, okay, I can travel. And he bought a backpack and he decided to go all around the world by himself with his stick. And he went to 92 countries in 2.5 years on his own. And what he tells me all the time is this: yeah, people are good, they haven't tried to screw him over with money. He said in 2.5 years only one time apparently they gave him the wrong change, but nobody ever tried to take advantage of the situation. He said especially in Africa, actually he said Africa was by far his favorite place for traveling, because what he said, it was African people are not afraid of physical contact, so they will see me and they will come to me and they will hold my hand and will just walk with me, so that was definitely the highlight for him. And I think I can really say the same. When the media try to make us a lot like paranoid all the time, that it's dangerous out there, that people are gonna rape you and screw you, and it's really not, doesn't reflect reality. I think from my own experience, I can also say that people are mainly good. And of course, there are some rare exceptions, but I don't think you'll find a lot of this exception in traveling, because even for like, if you look at violence towards women, it does happen in like domestic environment much more than it happens on the road. So I do feel even safer being out there than I probably would if I was at home.
Well, yeah. We have a message from Claudia, who is also Italian, and she wants to say that you are following your dreams, and that's a big thing. So complimenti. She, obviously being Italian, knows that Italians can be friendly, but also very, very close with people that you don't know. So, almost like the opposite of the English, that people get really close. How did you convince them to kind of keep a distance? Or do you?
Well, I had a lot of techniques that I've learned kind of along the way, but and also it's very different. Like the South was something, the North was something else. In the South, people were sometimes, maybe even a little bit too close. Like in Calabria, especially, like the people were so hospitable, but they could not really understand exactly what I was doing. So if I say to them, like, look, I'm doing this project, I'm gonna walk to your house. I don't need a pickup. I'm really gonna walk. Like I wanted to walk every single centimeter of my way. And they're like, what? Maybe there is no clouds in the sky. It's like the sun is shining. They're like, it's going to rain. We're gonna come and pick you up by car. We're gonna give you a lift. No way, you can't come here by walking. It's too far. Blah blah blah. And they would come, even though I say like 10 times, really, please don't, because you're gonna waste your time. I'm not gonna take the lift. They come anyway. And they end up driving slowly next to me because I wouldn't get in the car. So that sometimes was a little bit intense. Then on the other end, sometimes in the North, it was not easy to find people to host me. Like I ended up sleeping in 7 months. I didn't even have a tent because I thought if I had a tent, I wouldn't be forced to communicate with people. Maybe I would just take it easy and be more independent. So that's why I didn't want to bring a tent. But I didn't end up sleeping outside. Like I remember I slept in a phone box in the North. Sometimes I really slept on the streets. So yeah, that wasn't particularly nice, but it's part of the journey as well.
Mm-hmm. It's almost this kind of stereotype, isn't it, of the South and the North, that one is much more kind of warm and the other's a bit colder, and then sometimes you actually see these stereotypes.
Absolutely. Like I think, like a short story about my arrival. That was the chapter of the book that it was for me the harder to write. Reason being, it wasn't really welcoming, like I felt so much more welcome in some towns that I didn't know anyone, and the people were just like wonderful and yeah, really, really welcoming. When I arrived home, as I told you, like my parents had this coffee shop, so a lot of people know them and they knew me because of them and all that. So the first person in my hometown that sees me and recognized me and knew what I was doing, it was one of my parents' customer. It was like this kind of chubby older man with big glasses on the point of his nose, and he looked at me kind of up and down. And it's like, wow, Darinka, after all this walking, you didn't even lose weight.
Nice.
And really, Adam, you know what? Like, if I was elsewhere, I will probably take the time to give a real answer. I will be like, you know what, this is absolutely wonderful, because that means that people were so kind to give me enough food for all these 3,000 kilometers that I walked. It really means that touching the pulse of Italy, there is a lot of generosity. But I couldn't be bothered explaining him, because I knew that the mentality there is so close that he wouldn't understand, he wouldn't even listen to that. So I just said to him, yeah, you're right, I'm just gonna go to the gym now. Yeah.
we both come from villages in some quite nice countryside, I think, but I that sounds very familiar, those sorts of things. So it's been brilliant speaking to you, Darinka. I think we should take one more question, and that's also from Claudia, and it's a very nice one to end with, because it is, what is your favorite place you've ever been?
I have a bunch. Can I say more than one?
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yes.
Okay, so of course Bali is definitely one of them. Sicily is up there at the top. Then I really like Laos, Bolivia, and New Zealand.
That was much quicker than I thought it was going to be.
Well, reason being for Bolivia and Laos especially, I think because maybe they are the only two countries that I've been to that are not really westernized, they still hold on to their original indigenous traditions, and you can still see a society that's different from ours. So to me, that's really fascinating, and I really wish that imperialism and colonization never happened, so that wherever you go, you get to see that. Unfortunately, it did happen, so a lot of places have been sort of changed and became like us, so they're not so exotic to visit anymore.
We have actually had another question from Greg, who is Irish. He works in our marketing department, and he had actually heard of the canoes on the river in Dublin, so that was good. Greg asks us, so this is what he says: I know you like to move alone because it's the best way to travel. What about having a travel partner just for the cycling part to make it easier and be completely free at arrival in order to meet people, go around and sleep wherever you want? Have you ever tried it?
Greg, is that an offer? You want to join me on that? Look, I have tried traveling with my ex-partner. I'm sorry to say, but it didn't really work. Maybe it was just me and him. I'm not saying you will not work with anyone ever, but because of the nature of the travel I do travel so that I can write about it and share the experience. And I think the way that things happen when you travel alone, it's much different than when you travel with other people. Like if you get to a place alone, immediately someone will want to talk to you, they will want to help you. If you go there and you are already with someone, they will probably let you just be alone, because they're like, oh, they're already together, they don't need my help, they don't need my company. So you get to meet way less people when you're traveling in two. So yeah, I'm afraid for the moment, Greg, I will continue traveling on my own.
Sorry about that, Greg.